Good morning. Welcome to worship this morning at Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church. I am so glad that you are here. I am Lacey Adams, Director of Lifespan Faith Development and today's worship associate. We are so glad that you are here, whether or not you are here right now in person, on Zoom, or at some point in time in the future. This is a community where we are excited to have you wherever you are, whoever you are, wherever you might be, in time or place, or in your own journey. So we are excited to have you. We have a few very important and exciting announcements for this morning. The first of which is, if you want to know more about the things that are happening in our very active church, they're on the back of your order of service. So you might be looking at the front page, but make sure you also look at the back page. It will tell you lots of things that are going on and who might give you more information about them. Next Sunday is our annual flower communion service. So we encourage everyone of all ages to bring a fresh flower with you to church next Sunday. I have a special announcement from Meredith, so I'm going to invite Meredith forward for the special announcement. But while she's coming forward, I do want to encourage you to grab a hold of your phone, make sure that we are in airplane mode. It is not simply so that you don't ding or chime while we're in worship, but also to make it possible for our Zoom audience and our tech crew to have the full use of the church's bandwidth during church. So with that in mind, let's hear from Meredith.
Good morning. I'm making this announcement on behalf of Barb Rohr, who, together with Julie Kane and many others, are doing an incredible job preparing for our upcoming event, which is a combination of Books and Bling and the rummage sale this year, called Books and Bling and Other Things. I still love that name. So it's coming up this Friday and Saturday, and thank you everyone for what you've donated so far. Things are starting to roll in. That said, we welcome more stuff. So especially books, Barb said. We'd like to get more books for this year's sales. So if you have anything on your shelves, if you have neighbors or friends who want to supply books, we will take them. That would be amazing. If you can't get your donations to the church, Barb can help arrange for someone to come and get them. So don't let that be a barrier to you. And if you're unsure about pricing, she can help with that as well. So we are asking people to price non-Books and Bling, so any larger items that you bring. But if you don't want to do that, she can help you with it. The other thing is, please sign up to volunteer. We do have a couple of spots left. I think many of the slots are filling up, but if you have time and you haven't signed up yet, please do that. Also importantly, the sales open next Friday and Saturday to the public from 9 to 1, but there's a pre-sale, and I don't remember if we've done this before because I've missed it if we have, but there's a pre-sale for the congregation Thursday night from 5 to 7, so if you want to get the best bling in particular, that's what I'm always focused on, come 5 to 7 on Thursday, and it'll be a bit of an internal party here. That's going to be fun. If you have other questions, reach out to Barb, or you can connect with Martha, and she can get you connected to Barbara Rohr. Thank you to everyone who's working on that, and I hope to see you on Thursday night or next weekend at Books and Bling and Other Things.
Thank you, Meredith, and thanks to all who are helping make that happen. In celebration of Earth Day this morning, I offer you a call to worship from the Oglala Holy Man Black Elk. This is from the book Black Elk Speaks, spoken by Black Elk in Sioux, translated by his son Ben Black Elk, and transcribed/published by a white man named John Neidhart. As we will see throughout the service today, and as we should be aware of and look for in our world at all times, such translations, such appropriations, such things can prove to be problematic, if not questionable. Here Black Elk speaks. It is the story of all life that is holy and good, and of us two-leggeds sharing in it, with all the four-leggeds and the wings of the air, and of all the green things, that each of these are the children of one mother, and our Father is one Spirit. So let us now, as Black Elk puts it, all of us two-leggeds as well as the four-leggeds and the wings of the air and all the green things, let us worship together as one. All right. Everybody's involved. Cool. Don't need to sit back down, kids. Let's all rise in body or spirit to sing our familiar hymn of invocation. Today, I encourage you to think about what you are singing. Think about invoking the Spirit of life to come to you. Think about your heart stirring with compassion, and sing not habitually but mindfully these beautiful inspiring words, number 123, Spirit of life. To the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Okay. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.
Yeah, that is, technically it is tomorrow, just in case anyone was confused. All right. Who in here does any growing or planting of plants? Who plants gardens? Who has house plants? All right. Who cannot keep a house plant alive for anything? Yes. Here we go. Here are my kindred. Okay. So, and that's just, all sorts of things. The year we were married, my wife bought this stalactite fern because the year her parents were married, they bought one of these ferns, and then they've kept that alive for their 50 years of marriage. And so my wife is like, this will be great. We're going to buy one. We're going to have it for all the years of our marriage. Okay, so then she went away for a while. She was gone. She needed to be away for a while, and I was left in care of this here fern, and that fern has not survived. So in the course of trying to care for this fern, I got freaked out because I was like, oh my God, what's happening? The fern is dying. What should I do? And I read this article that told me that you need to talk to plants. Has anyone heard this advice? Talk to plants. Okay. And so I would take this plant into the bathroom, and I would talk to it, and I would put it in this 5-gallon bucket, which is what they told me to do because it's like on this piece of wood. I put it in this bucket. I talk to it while it's in the bucket. Then I go and do some things, and I come back and I put it up on the wall. And every day I talk to this fern and put it in this bucket to water it. And the fern just got worse and worse. So it was not that I was talking to it, it's that I was overwatering. So, but here's the cool thing about, I actually think that plants and trees are kind of awesome because they do this thing, right? Why, do you know, does anyone know why if you breathe or talk on a plant, it's good for them? Why are we supposed to talk to plants? Do you think they care about our problems? Okay, right. We breathe out something that a plant needs. So when you talk to a plant, you are breathing out carbon dioxide, which they need. And so then they breathe in what we are breathing out, and that actually helps them grow. This is actually sort of one of the cool things about the world in which we live. We are connected in all of these kind of little and tiny ways, that the things that we have, other things need. So when we're connected to the living world, we live in relationship with it. And so one of the sort of lessons of Earth Day is that not only do we need the physical world, the earth, but they actually need to be in a symbiotic relationship with us. And that when we are in a solid relationship, a give and a take relationship with our natural world, then we all can survive and thrive. It's when that relationship is sort of out of whack, where we're giving more than trees can manage, is when bad things happen to them. But trees especially, some trees look like they're just all on their own, but there can be thousands and thousands of trees sometimes that are connected underground by way of roots. So it's a reminder that we are all trees and plants, when you don't overwater them, are a reminder of all the ways in which we are connected. And so one of the things that I think that for Earth Day, as we think about Earth Day, and as we think about our land acknowledgement today, our young people have actually heard and read and sort of explored our land acknowledgement already in times of RE. So like the land acknowledgement we're going to talk about today as adults is not new to our kids. Our kids have already explored that, heard about it, talked about it, are learning about what that means to them. But as we think about how we have a relationship to the land and the people who steward the land, it is a reminder that we are connected. And the healthier a relationship we have with each other, with our past and with our present, the healthier a relationship that we have, and the healthier our whole planet is. In many indigenous cultures, right, the earth is represented in the drum. So when drumming is done, it's not just for music, which it is also for music, but it also has sacred purposes, because the drum is supposed to represent our earth, and care for the earth. And access to the drum and drumming together and drumming as a community is a way of teaching and representing the fact that we enter into joy together, we enter into music together, but we also enter into the heartbeat of our community together. And so the drumming in both music and in ritual life and in many indigenous cultures is a way of remembering that we are connected, that our hearts beat together, and that when we get on the same page, when our hearts learn to beat together, then our hearts learn to collaborate with each other, and we collaborate with our greater world. So it might not be surprising to us. Anyone watch the Oscars? Okay. So this year, anyone has seen the movie Killers of the Flower Moon? All right. Groundbreaking in its number of nominations for Indigenous actors, songwriters, for its content. Not surprising. It won in none, despite its 10 nominations, it won in none of its categories. And George Scott, whose song, Songs of My People, was the first, not just American Indigenous person, but the first Indigenous person to be nominated in that category. The very first. And the drum, the heartbeat of the people, is central to that. So as we move from our Time for All Ages and our thinking about our role, our heartbeat, our breath, let us listen to songs of our people.
The Osage this money started coming. We should have known it came with something else.
Now, most fellas out here are crooked. Some do things right, most do bad.
I haven't done nothing wrong in this world.
Have you told all the truths?
The emotion on that first audience member's face when it was over, just incredible. And that line, I haven't done anything wrong. Yes, but have you told all the truths from the movie? So let us keep that in mind. We have a lot more truths we need to tell today and every day moving forward. So let's sing our children now off to their activities today. Earth Was Given as a Garden is our hymn. Number 207, please rise. This time, I know it's the children's recessional, but let's rise in body or spirit and sing all three verses of hymn number 207. Thank you. You may all be seated, except for Kathy. I'm going to call Kathy forward now to begin a portion of our service where we're going to explore, and it's really cool to know that the kids have already done this before us, adopting before the adults, as usual. This is our time to talk about our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. I don't know about you, my heart is still shaking from those drums. So some of you remember that in 2021, we devoted our Thanksgiving Sunday service to taking a hard look at our relationship and our history with the land and the peoples who lived here many centuries before us. Some of you were here on that Sunday. But for those who weren't, Reverend Bill asked me to give you a brief, and I'm underlining the word brief, summary of what we learned on that Sunday. We've become aware that the land we stand on here at Heritage, the hills, valleys, and rivers that surround us here in southwestern Ohio, were originally the homeland for ancient indigenous peoples. They were men, women, and children who hunted and planted and cared for this land. They danced and chanted and prayed to the Great Spirit, and they enjoyed the same sun and moon and sky and stars that we enjoy. These indigenous peoples lived in our area, we now know, as far back as 12,000 years ago. We know them as Adena or Hopewell, and we have named them the Mound Builders. What they named themselves, we do not know. They built their amazing walled-in communities with intricate water systems and mound configurations. From the Ohio River to the Miami rivers, the Great and the Little Miami, they dredged stones, which they pounded into gravel, creating assembly line architectural marvels. We also know that there were dozens of burial mounds in this area. There was actually a 27-foot high mound. Imagine a 3-story house, that kind of height, where Fountain Square now stands. That mound and others were destroyed by General Mad Anthony Wayne and his troops in 1793 in order to build a fort to defend themselves against guess who? Except for the insight of a Dr. Daniel Drake, who was a pioneering Cincinnati doctor in the 1790s, no one paid much attention to the destruction of all those mounds or the sacred bones and artifacts that General Wayne's workmen dug up. No one except Dr. Drake, who carried as many artifacts as he could home to preserve them. And history indicates that they are now stored at the museum center downtown. So we stand on sacred ground where the ancestors of the mound builders, the Shawnee and Miami, or Miyamia, as they like to be called, along with the Delaware, the Wyandot, Chippewa, Potawatomi, many other tribes lived and traded. In fact, many streets and neighborhoods in our area, in our county, and even some schools still bear Indian names. And if you haven't visited Newtown's American Indian Museum on Church Street, that might be a good place to begin some learning yourselves. We need to acknowledge that the land we stand on here is stolen land. Now, we didn't steal it. Our parents didn't steal it, our grandparents or great-grandparents. Still, this land was violently stolen from those who first lived and flourished here. The Europeans who settled here in colonial times believed and operated under the doctrine of discovery. This was an international law dating from the late 15th century, more than 500 plus years ago. And it promoted the conquest, colonization, and exploitation of any non-Christian territories and peoples. So that's our inheritance. There is a painful history of various churches, ours included, working with the US government to remove Native American children from their families and raise them in boarding schools, with the goal to eliminate their language and their culture, even their long hair, and assimilate them into the white Christian culture. Now, over the years, one of our own here at Heritage, Mary Pember, you may remember, she is a member of the Ojibwa tribe. And Mary has offered her research and personal life experience. Her own mother was brought up in one of those boarding schools. Mary's advice for us is simple and direct, and I'm going to quote Mary. She says, quote, "Learn all you can, then tell the truth. Work for justice, make reparation, take action." And she closes with, "There is much to do." Unquote. We should stay curious then, studying and learning the truths about colonization here in Ohio and all around our country, how white settlers took over the land and how this resulted in the near destruction of an entire culture. It has been a humbling and disturbing process, but it has led us here at Heritage to publicly acknowledging those ancient peoples, and in the process, maybe to bring about healing. And now, I'd like to introduce Mimi Sinclair, who will bring us into the present.
Thank you, Kathy. At her service back in 21, Kathy, and through Mary Pember, urged us to learn the history, speak the truth about that history, work to heal and build relationships with Indigenous peoples in our community today, and to co-create a future with our Native neighbors. I was very moved by that call to action back then, as I am hearing it again today. The spring following that service, I attended a social justice collaborative meeting on another matter, and it was suggested in that meeting that Heritage have a book study on text about Indigenous history. And my recollection is that I said, I'd be interested in that, meaning reading and attending and learning about this book. Imagine my surprise when the minutes of the meeting came out and indicated I was now in charge of organizing that book group. I humbly accepted that assignment and began planning with others, including Ray Jane Arujo, Louise Lawari, and Bob Lamb. We decided that rather than read a book, more people would engage with a film. And in October of 2022, we had our first film viewing. A survey of those people in attendance found most were interested in seeing more films, and some were also interested in creating a formal land acknowledgement. So since then, we have viewed both documentaries and feature films which discussed the removal of Native children to those boarding schools, the repatriation of remains from those schools, Native sovereignty, Indigenous families reclaiming traditional cultural practices, and accounts of Native life today on reservations. We will be viewing another film about Indigenous land stewardship on May 29th, and you can read details about that in the announcements on the back of your order of service. Tracy Joe, April Thiero, and I began last spring, after much of this learning, to craft the language and intent of our land acknowledgement. April needed to step aside, and Louise Loire joined in finalizing the process, we had also valuable assistance from Martha Vieman and Lacey Adams. We came to this process understanding that a formal land acknowledgement goes beyond simply reading or saying words about those who lived in this land and were removed by the colonizers. Action, as Kathy said, is also required to continue to learn and to develop relationships with local Indigenous groups, partnering with them in a supportive role to make amends or reparations. I did extend an invitation to the Urban Native Collective, which is a local Indigenous community group, to attend our service today, and they were very grateful for our support, but declined to be here. The formal land acknowledgement was presented to and approved by the Board of Directors in March, and I'm pleased to share with you now this lovely framed copy, which will be hanging in the lobby.
Today, we stand on the ancestral lands of the Hopewell, Adena, Kaskaskia, Osage, Wyandot, Shawnee, and Miami nations, and others whose names are not known to us. We honor those people who stewarded this land for countless generations. Many nations were removed unjustly by the U.S. government. We continue to be the beneficiaries of that removal through ongoing legacies of colonialism. Today's Indigenous peoples are actively striving to maintain and revitalize their traditional ways and their language. We affirm that Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church, as a part of the Unitarian Universalist Association, has joined the growing list of faith communities who wholly reject the premise of the doctrine of discovery, which from the 15th century to the present provided a legal and religious framework for sanctioning the brutal conquest and colonization of Indigenous lands and people. We are committed to taking a deep look at the ways our society has justified colonialism, domination, slavery, and the genocide of Indigenous people.
Thank you, Tracy Joe. I would like to give a round of applause to the folks who made this possible and brought us to this moment. I think this is an important step in the growth, and by that I mean the spiritual growth of this congregation. I'd like to invite Mimi back now to tell us about this week's offering recipient.
As our members know, each week our offering goes not to the church, but to a nonprofit organization whose mission connects with our message for that day or a timely event. Today, our recipient is the Miami Center Cultural Ecology Program. With this outreach, we can support those who are directly descended from the peoples who were removed from this land. The Miami Center is a partnership between Miami University and the Miami tribe of Oklahoma and it serves students from the tribe who are attending Miami. Here, they are immersed in their native language and learn traditional cultural practices. Miamia, as Kathy mentioned, is the name the people gave themselves. You may know them as the colonizers named them Miami. Daryl Baldwin, the executive director of the Miamia Center, shared with me that much of what they do in language and cultural education is an attempt to repair the damage caused by years of oppression through helping Miamia people strengthen their connection to their indigenous knowledge system. Cultural ecology is one aspect of that effort and is literally woven into a broad range of learning opportunities. So it is a fundamental component to all their educational efforts. Students will have research projects or want to engage in experiences that are more ecological in nature and thus will be directly supported from this fund. For those who are on Zoom, the link to donate should be in the chat. Please check the box for student support that appears on the donation page. And towards the bottom of the form will be an additional comments box, and you are asked to indicate your donation is for cultural ecology projects. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you for your generous support to assist the Miamia Nation through the Miamia Center so that they may be strengthened through the revitalization of their distinct ways of knowing, speaking, and being.
Amen, and thank you, Mimi. We invite you now into a mindful moment of humility, prayer, and reverence, first opening your hearts and minds to words from our UU hymnal attributed to the Ute tribe of the North American plains and pueblos, followed by a period of prayerful silence and contemplation.
Earth, teach us stillness as the grasses are stilled by the light.
Earth, teach us suffering as old stones suffer with memory.
Earth, teach us caring as parents who secure their young.
Earth, teach us courage as the tree that stands alone.
Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground.
Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle that soars in the sky.
Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall.
Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring. Let us be with one another and with the earth in silence. may we honor the earth and the spirit of life in each and in all. Amen. One way we honor, one way we show reverence and gratitude is by lifting our voices together, that they may be heard by the creatures and by the air that surrounds us. Please rise as you are able, wherever you may be this morning on this beautiful planet we call home, and sing with me Peter Mayer's Blue Boat Home. All through the universe, we are connected. That song particularly makes me feel a connection to my sister and her husband, who live on the eastern shore in Virginia. My brother-in-law is a sailor, and that is their favorite Unitarian Universalist hymn. We come now to our time that we call Candles of Community. It is a way that we build, strengthen, lift up, and empower our community to care for one another, to be with one another in difficult times or in times of celebration. We offer the opportunity to speak a joy or a sorrow to the congregation gathered here in the sanctuary and to the congregation gathered on Zoom, to share those joys and sorrows of our week and of our lives. In the process, connecting us to one another even more deeply than we already are. If you have a joy or a sorrow this morning, I invite those in the congregation to come forward first, and then folks on Zoom can type theirs into the chat, and I will read those aloud as well. Have a couple before the in-person candles here in the congregation. The first, I want to light a candle of healing. Now we light one final candle for those joys and those sorrows unexpressed this morning, but still held in our hearts. Tomorrow is Earth Day. So this morning, as we do each year at this time, we set aside time to honor the planet we call home, the Earth, which is our source and the source of all life that we know. Earth Day started as an environmental cry, a call to arms, a call to awakening about the harm that we are doing to our air, our water, our food, all that sustains us. On that first Earth Day, April 22nd, 1970, an estimated 20 million Americans participated in rallies, marches, educational events, and civic gatherings at tens of thousands of different locations all across the country. There was a sense of urgency and a unity of purpose across all the categories that we now think of as dividing us. When we mark the 55th annual Earth Day tomorrow, how many Americans, how many events do you think there will be? How much collective attention will be focused on a problem that has only grown exponentially more existential in the past 55 years? All the milestones and markers that scientists warned us about half a century ago are not only reality today, but much of that data is in fact even worse than predicted. Extreme weather and rising sea levels are the new normal. So today, we Unitarian Universalists, we Universalists of Heritage Church must rededicate ourselves to our long-held tradition, our long-held heritage of commitment to environmental stewardship and ecological spirituality. We must keep alive our reverence for, our respect for, our honoring of the interdependent web of existence. We must always, always remember that we are part of that web. That seventh UU principle, that foundational UU value, is of course a concept that is intrinsic to indigenous peoples. And it was Chief Seattle of the Duwamish tribe of the Pacific Northwest who gave voice to what is unquestionably now one of the most deeply and reverently held beliefs in all of Unitarian Universalism, when he said 170 years ago, "This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. And whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves." But this morning, this Earth Day Sunday, while many of us, myself included, do indeed, and with great respect and reverence, ground a significant part of our shared spirituality in such concepts as the interdependent web of existence, we are also acutely aware of the many appropriations that have led us to this place, not the least of which including that very idea, the interdependent web of existence. We are in a time of environmental crisis. Our culture and our ancestors, and here I speak about the colonizers. I speak for the vast majority of those who are hearing my words, who are descendants of the colonizers, but not, of course, for everyone. Our culture and our ancestors took the land where we now live and work, play and worship from other peoples and other cultures, often at gunpoint, often with violence, even genocide. Have you told the truths? We must continue to tell the truth. Something else happened when we, our ancestors, attempted to erase the indigenous tribes from the land that we coveted. In the process, we also attempted to erase their beliefs and traditions that held the earth and its creatures, the air and the water, and the very ground itself to be sacred. Yes, we attempted to erase all that, but thankfully, it is stronger, and we haven't fully succeeded. Maybe because I don't think we could have. Because I believe it is somehow interwoven into our human nature itself, into our very being, our DNA, to know, to sense, to feel our profound and permanent, unalterable connection to all that is, our dependence on all that is. Each one of us understands somewhere inside that we are part of something bigger, something that connects us all, something that holds us all, something we are utterly and completely dependent on. Even European Americans, the most adamantly independent and allegedly autonomous and self-reliant human beings in all of history ever to walk this earth, even they, even we, know at some level this truth. And that is a truth we need to tell as well. We are part of a web of life, an interdependent web. We are not independent. That interdependent web which we honor is hurting right now. And so we are hurting. Our forests burn, our cities flood, our waters make us sick. It is time, high time, to begin healing the hurt, and high time to make amends, high time to acknowledge that not only are we on stolen land, but we are also on borrowed time. We must take action to repair relationships with those whom we have harmed, action to repair our relationship with the earth and the environment that we have harmed. Let us use this Earth Day 2024 as a new beginning. In 1854, Chief Seattle met with the governor of the U.S., quote, territory known then as Washington, a man named Isaac Williams. This meeting was supposedly to negotiate the purchase of land by the United States government from the tribes that had lived and died, hunted and planted, raised children and buried their dead on that land for countless generations. But of course it wasn't a negotiation. It was extortion. We, and here I mean the white man, heisted untold property and riches and generational wealth on that day, but perhaps what was even more valuable, what was priceless, as the capitalist television commercial might call it, were the words and wisdom of Chief Seattle. The teaching that we are part of a web of life, that the earth is sacred. That, and these are words Seattle reportedly said, but were probably written down later by a white man, yet remain nonetheless true, whether canonical or not. The wisdom that every part of the earth is sacred. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every meadow, every humming insect, all are holy. We know this to be true, my friends. You know this to be true. So I say it again, let us use this Earth Day 2024 as a new beginning. Let us begin to make amends, to repair what we have harmed, and to live in harmony with one another and with all that is. May it be so, and amen. We conclude this special Earth Day service by making a covenant with one another, a covenant with the ancestors, and with all who have been stewards of this holy place that we are now briefly blessed to call home, by saying together, our Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church land acknowledgement. Kevin, please show us the words, and I invite everyone to rise as one and read them together into the sacred air. Today we stand on the ancestral lands of the Hopewell, Adena, Kaskaskia, Osage, Wyandotte, Shawnee, and Mia nations, and others whose names are not known to us. We honor those peoples who stewarded this land for countless generations. Many nations were removed unjustly by the U.S. government. We continue to be the beneficiaries of that removal through the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. Today's indigenous peoples are actively striving to maintain and revitalize their traditional ways and language. We affirm that Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church, as part of the Unitarian Universalist Association, has joined the growing list of faith communities who wholly reject the premise of the doctrine of discovery, which from the 15th century to the present provided a legal and religious framework for sanctioning the brutal conquest and colonialization of indigenous lands and people. We are committed to taking a deep look at the ways our society has justified colonialism, domination, slavery, and the genocide of indigenous people. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Let's lift our voices again, this time in song, as we sing our closing hymn, For the Earth Forever Turning. If you would, please remain standing for a moment more for our closing words and for the traditional heritage benediction. And for one more bit of truth-telling this morning. Today I offer you closing words that are commonly used in Unitarian Universalist congregations because they appear in our hymnal. In this book, they are attributed to Nancy Wood, a white woman, a popular poet and author who published many books celebrating and documenting indigenous cultures of the American Southwest. Between the lines, which is an annotated addendum that describes the sources and writers of the material contained in our UU hymnal, it is indicated that the closing words I'm about to share were published in 1974 in a book by Nancy Wood titled Many Winters, Prose and Poetry of the Pueblos. I don't have that book, but I suspect, and at least I hope, the author would have given proper attribution to the source of these words. However, it is very much worth noting and learning from the fact that in our hymnal, these words are said to come from Nancy Wood. Instead, they come from the Siksika First Nation of Canada chief Crowfoot. So hear now the words not of Nancy Wood, but of Crowfoot. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. And hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you. Amen. And let's hold on to one another's hands now. It's time to form our circle around the sanctuary and share in our benediction, which was written by former church member Jerry Howard, revised very slightly by me, and said each Sunday as we take our leave of one another until we meet again. Sherry, just keep on coming over here. And Marty, keep follow her. Just bring the line this way. It'll work. Well, Marilyn will follow you. Marilyn will follow you. We form a sacred circle. May the Spirit of life, that each of us possesses, flow from one to the other. May it stay with us. And bring us peace and harmony. Until we meet again. Amen.